Because here's the thing. All right, so you got the value of a house, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say it's $120,000, right? You pay on it month to month, every single month. So you pay on that motherfucker. Now the value of the house don't go. It's worth 120, right?
Mm-hmm.
You done paid on it month to month. You done paid $5,000. So you done knocked down. You paid 120 for it. The value is 120. You done paid $5,000. So you only owe 115 on it right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's say you pay another $5,000. So now you only owe 110. The value is still 120. After year 2 or 3, the value goes up to 125. Right? You only owe 110. So if you come in and sell that house for $125,000 or $130,000, you done paid it down to 110. That's $20,000 in your pocket.
Because of what you gonna sell it for.
Yeah, you no, because of what you done paid off, right? You done paid it down to 110.
Mm-hmm.
The value was at 120, but it went up in appreciation, so it went up to 125.
What you could sell it for.
Yeah, what the going market is for.
Mm-hmm.
So you end up selling it for 130 because it's a lot of people wanting to buy it, right? So you only owe 110. So when the seller writes you that check for 130, you pay the bank back that 110 because you done already paid them $10,000. You got a check for 130. You paying the bank back 110 because that's all you owe the bank now.
Mm-hmm.
You got an extra $20,000 to put in your pocket.
In your hand.
In your hand. Or you can continue to rent it out and keep decreasing the amount you owe the bank.
And increase what you can get.
And hopefully the appreciation of your house keep going up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because if the appreciation keep going up, then not only are you getting somebody else to pay your mortgage, they're decreasing the amount that you owe from the bank. So let's say you rent it out and they end up staying in it long enough to where they done paid $10,000 on your house. Now you only owe $100,000. And you sell it for $30,000. Or where you sell it for $130,000. So you pay the bank the $100 you owe them,
mm-hmm.
and you put the $30 in your pocket. Or you rent it out another year and let somebody else pay another $10,000 off that motherfucker, and you sell it for $130. And now you only owe the bank $90,000. So you write the customer writes you that $130,000 check. You write the bank a $90,000 check because that's all you owe them, and you got $40,000 in your pocket.
And keep it moving.
That's how that works.
But
or you can stand it your whole damn life and pay the whole thing off yourself.
And then just have a house.
Yeah, and just have a house.
Which ain't nothing wrong with that either.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. Hell, my mama done it.
Yeah.
My grandma done it.
There's absolutely nothing at all wrong with that. There's a lot of people who do that.
Yeah. Like, I don't think that ain't my style. Like, I don't think I must stay like that was my mama's first house and she never moved.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that happened a lot of times back in the old days, but I don't think I'm gonna do that.
You know, I was thinking about that earlier in a way though. Like, well, it kind of ties, I think so, as far as that, even the house thing, like, because you would think, I was like, a lot of people now are taught to, you know, to get their own and move away and to separate and not necessarily continue building upon the kingdom or the family legacy that our grandparents and stuff, you know, had to fight to even have, because they was forcefully divided before, and now we try to do everything we can to run away from our families versus doing stuff to stay connected with our families and growing with our families. Like, I understand people, I was like, you know, I understand people want to have their own space and or whatever, but there still are ways that people can have communities or dwellings where people live together and do things together where they got their own space, but they are doing things towards, you know, building the legacy or building the kingdom where everybody's at, where everybody can thrive from, versus going off separating, and now you got to basically start all the way over, building a foundation again versus staying where the foundation had got established at. You know what I'm saying? As far as, like I say, the grandparents and our elders, they used to get forcefully separated from families back in the day. And, you know, it got to a point where, you know, some people got the money together to actually get stuff and establish a place where they could raise a family at. And the first thing people wanted to do after they grew up was run off, or not necessarily after they grew up. The parents might have pushed them out of the house, or, you know, different things. It was all in separation versus continuous building.
Man.
You know what I'm saying?
That's all really what it's about, man. Like, you kind of have to grow up. You don't necessarily have to forget about or distance yourself just because you go to another city or somewhere like that. That ain't necessarily running away. That's just, you know, sometimes you have to be able to spread your own wings. You know what I'm saying? Or if you can't spread your own wings, then you limited yourself on how far you can fly. You know what I'm saying? If you never get the opportunity or chance to fly to your fullest, you can stunt your growth in a sense. Like, for instance, an example that I that comes to mind is, I don't know if it is, what's the movie called? Is it Blackfin?
Never heard of it.
But it's about the damn the whales in Disney World, SeaWorld, Shamu Mill. If you notice, those whales, they're in big ass tanks, right? But you got to realize a whale is used to traveling thousands miles. So I don't care how big that fucking tank is in SeaWorld, it's never going to be big enough for a whale. You feel me? He's held captive, especially when a whale travels thousands. And if you notice, if you look at the movie, all of those whales' fins are curved over, turned. That doesn't happen to a whale that's in normal waters. That's happening to them because they're in captivity. All of their whales is a deformity that happens. They can't get spread their wings because they can only go so far in that fucking tank.
Facts.
And that's where they have to live and grow up. That's not use. That's really not their home at all. They got stolen
completely
from the water and put there
completely.
You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times them whales, they stay there. Like, Shamu was there from me growing up to me being an adult. That's how long he was there, held in captivity. And they try to present it to you like, oh, it's so beautiful, he's happy. That motherfucker ain't happy.
No different from the zoo.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the same, same difference. So I think as you can branch off, and you don't have to stay in the same city or town that you necessarily grew up in, or you can stay in the same city and You know what I'm saying? And branch out, because you have places where cities are bigger in different areas, and you can move wherever you want, but you have to be able to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And if you limit yourself to that, it ain't saying nothing that you can't take care of the legacy or anything like that. But you have to understand, just like your grandparents now, they started a foundation, but that foundation was different from what they laid they had. You know, they branched out and got their own house to start that foundation. So in some cases, you might have to be the grandparent that eventually be the one who starts the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So your kids be like, my grandpa built this house from the ground up.
This whole legacy, this whole thing.
Yep. He built it.
And see, that's
Didn't
completely
nobody build it
understood.
for him. He built that himself.
With his own two hands.
Yeah.
And the help
So
of
sometimes you got to be that person. And like, for instance, let's say you want to build a house. Well, in the neighborhood that you in right now, there's no land. So you may have to go to somewhere where you can buy some land and start your legacy there. That ain't saying that you forgot about the legacy that you grew up in. That ain't saying you ain't gonna never go back and contribute to that legacy. But it just sometimes means you're starting your own legacy as well, that your kids and your grandkids can look up to and be like, my grandpa Pop built that damn shit himself.
And it's almost it's going to have to be that now, because a lot of, like you say, the land here is not as abundant, because a lot of it is being sold off or given away. It's not being kept in the family, so it's not able to be cultivated and continue, building on. And some of it is just not even the space to do it in a sense as well. But that's also a reason, so I present that. But I feel what you're saying as far as with the whale. Because I don't want to lose that point. That in captivity they are that growth is stunted because they're not in the natural environment. But most of the time that these whales are in captivity is because they have ran off from the pack, because most whales travel in families. They travel in groups. They don't necessarily travel individually, and most of the time when they do travel individually, they end up washed up on the shore or caught or whatever you may. And while they're out there, they do have a massive way of growing and things of that nature. But while they're out there, they grow together and they protect one another and they continue growing that way.
These fuckers, if you watch this shit, they separate these motherfuckers. They be in the pack.
Exactly.
And they come in and separate their ass so that they can get them by themselves. So it ain't like they veered off by themselves. They actually do things to separate the whales so that they can get either the baby or the weakest link. That's bullshit.
Henceforth, we're back to what I'm saying. It doesn't benefit us as people to start separating, because individually, you can go somewhere you can go quickly, but we're trying to get far, so we're gonna have to go collectively. It's at a point now where I understand where everybody. This is just my opinion with things, personally, not speaking for everybody, but it feels like we stand, and everybody individually are standing, if you want to say it that way. As far as people moving off doing their own thing, we do have the ability to stand on our own. Let's bring that together and have a directive of what we're doing. That's all I'm saying.
Well, you can do both of those.
You have to. simultaneously.
It ain't
A group
nothing
is
in the
made
law
up
that
of
say if you
individuals.
do one, you can't do the other.
Yeah, because a group is made up of individuals, and individuals make a group.
Yeah, and see what happens sometimes. Like if we go back to what you were saying about, sometimes you get land, and land is not at abundance, and sometimes people sell off the land that the grandparents and the elders work so hard to cultivate and have. But sometimes you get a family member that's on that land and ain't motherfucking taking care of the land.
That's a fuck up.
Ain't doing shit with the land. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Ain't wanting to take care of the house on the land. Ain't wanting to fix nothing. Ain't wanting to pay for nothing. Just want profit from
freeloading.
That
Lazy for nothing.
Yeah. So now you could do what you could go help him freeload. You could go help cultivate his land that he's staying on to keep it in the family. You could go spend money to fix up the house to keep it in the family. You can cultivate that land and let him continue to stay there to keep it in the family. And I think that be the hard part. Like, because a lot of times motherfuckers be like, fuck that nigga.